Okay, now that we've talked about the economic spectrum in the world, let's actually place some of the states of today's world into it to see where they fall out. And just for fun, to stay in step with what we always do, we'll start with the left and head towards the right. Are there any true, full-on, hardcore, leftist, communist economic systems in today's world? I've already told you the answer to this, not really. But Cuba and North Korea are perhaps the only states that are still claiming it and are still trying to do this. That is, the state apparatus has 100% control over all economic activity. Now, why am I suggesting that even in these states it's questionable? Well, because they don't work. I mean, yes, the Cuban government and North Korean government supposedly run everything on behalf of the citizens and are supposed to be redistributing all the resources to the citizens. But these are impoverished states. Obviously, the system ain't working so well. Both of these countries have a huge underground black market, which is capitalist, system of trade going on, which really circulates the trades and goods and services in these places. So Cuba and North Korea on the far extreme left fringe, not really pulling it off, but still pretending to pull off the semi-communist thing. Let's shift a little bit to the right, though. Who is on the far left economic spectrum? Oh, we got to throw Venezuela right in there. We already talked about Hugo Chavez and his nationalization mayhem. He has been grabbing up industries from all across the state of Venezuela and making them state property in an effort to alleviate poverty, to make wealth and economic power more equal to all the citizens, to redistribute stuff to all the peoples. He's been trying really hard and meeting with, I have to be honest, minimal success. The most important thing he nationalized, of course, was the oil, and he's taken all the wealth from all these industries he's nationalized and trying to rebuild infrastructure and trying to pass out social benefits to the peoples, but it hasn't been really working that well. But he's doing it, and yes, the government plays a very heavy hand in the resources and industries of the state in an attempt to redistribute social benefits to the state. So Venezuela on the far left part of the economic spectrum. Let's move a little bit more to the right. Let's throw Saudi Arabia in here. Now, politically, we wouldn't call Saudi Arabia leftist. That's a monarchy in charge. They hold all the political power. So politically, they're on the right. But we're talking economics here. Don't get the two things confused. You can have a state that is hardcore rightist extremist politically, but is leftist economically. And that's the case with Saudi Arabia. They are very liberal on the economic scale. Saudi Arabia does control all of its oil in the name of its peoples. It outright controls the industry. It makes trillions off of it. And what does it do for the peoples off the trillions it makes? A whole hell of a lot. Pretty much if you're a Saudi Arabian citizen, it's all free. Healthcare is free. Just go to the doctor. Public education's free. Dudes, in Saudi Arabia, college is free. Free! And in fact, I've taught some people at this university that have come from Saudi Arabia because the Saudi Arabian government will send you abroad, paid for. If you're a Saudi Arabian citizen, that is a lot of social benefits. There's only one other country that's kind of right beside Saudi Arabia on the spectrum here, and that is the Sultanate of Brunei over in Southeast Asia. I know you probably never heard of it. It's actually a country. And in Brunei, the whole damn country, much like Saudi Arabia, sits on an oil well. And the oil is the property of the state, of the Sultan personally, if you want to look at it that way. And they have made trillions off that oil over the last several decades. And so they provide everything for the people of Brunei. If you're born in Brunei, you're done. They're going to set you up with a job, free health care, free education, free college, whatever. In Brunei, they have a Walt Disney World theme park just outside the capital. And when you are born in Brunei, you have a lifetime pass to the Disney World of Brunei. Here you go. Have it. Just have fun, work, don't work, do whatever you want. I mean, it's not communism, but it is a state that's heavily involved in the economy to make money, to redistribute wealth and benefits to its peoples. That's the left side of the spectrum. Let's move it a little bit more to the right, though. Let's pick on some European countries now, like Sweden. Many of the northern European countries are what we would call openly kind of socialist states. Not communism, but the socialist state, because they provide a shit ton of benefits to their people as well. Social benefits. And in the case of Sweden, I believe I pointed this out already. When a woman gets pregnant, she has a baby, 2 years off paid maternity. Paid! Go home, raise the kid. It's paid for. A host of free things like health care and public education and great benefits when you retire. I mean, you're set. The standards of living in Sweden are through the roof, and it's all good for just about everybody. It's a very equal society. Now, how does Sweden pay for all that? They don't got no oil. Yeah, good thinking. They don't. Sweden takes the other tactic, which is they don't control the open state resource or run a state business. They tax the living bejesus out of their citizens to pay for all the stuff that then they can give back to the citizens. The income tax rate in Sweden, I think, is 25 or 35%. So a third of what you make, you give to the government every year. And the taxes on goods, sales taxes, are through the roof. Hardly anybody in Sweden actually owns a Volvo. Those boxy Swedish vehicles they make in Sweden. Nobody in Sweden owns them because they're too expensive, because they tax the sweet bejesus out of luxury items like automobiles or mink furs or vodka. Yeah, you're going to pay through the nose for alcohol in Sweden. Exceptionally high taxes. And they take all that money from taxes to give all the services to the people and make it an equitable economic society. And they do it very, very well. But let's head a little further to the right. Now we're getting somewhere closer to the center. And here's where we pick up some giants like China. I know, this is what's confusing to people because they say, China, communist, China, communist, communist, China. Forget about it. Not economically. They tried that stuff for decades, and it didn't work. So since the 1970s, China has been on a big move to the right side of the economic spectrum, embracing capitalism in a very big way. Now, the state still controls many industries and tries to give out benefits, but they got 1 billion people there. They can't give a whole lot of stuff to 1 billion people, and they don't. During its communist era, they tried to run all the industries, thereby giving jobs to all of their citizens and retirement benefits and health benefits to all those workers. But they have been walking away from that in a very big way, letting things privatize, let it go, and then just collect taxes off of it. So China on the march towards the capitalist side, as is its next door neighbor, Russia, the other huge, used to be communist country. They have since, of course, renounced all that when they collapsed in 1990. The USSR collapsed in 1990 and made Russia and 14 other countries. Russia has also, like China, been moving in that direction. And we could throw India in here as well and its socialist experiment for the last 50 years that they've been giving up and moving towards that capitalist side. Privatizing lots of industries, yes, still trying to give some benefits to its citizens, but via taxation, via selling licenses and fees to the private businesses, not trying to interject itself directly into the economy itself. And in these really big countries, they actually don't give as many benefits to its citizens as countries like Sweden or Norway or Saudi Arabia does. So they're closer to the center, almost over there on the right. And let's go ahead and kind of move towards the right a little bit more. And we get to other European countries like the United Kingdom. They maybe invented capitalism in the modern era. That's where Adam Smith, the guy who wrote The Wealth of Nations in 1776, was from. And The Wealth of Nations is pretty much the guidebook, the playbook for capitalism. Yes, the British have socialized medicine and do provide some benefits for their citizens, but not a whole lot, not as much as the countries to their left. And they do not interject themselves big into the economy. They don't run any industries or resources. And when you take a further step to the right to Germany, the Germans don't like to dabble in the state running the economy much either. They're big proponents of private enterprise and private business. I mean, the Germans, they're all industrious and make lots of great products, and they like that to be in private hands and go that way. Yes, they provide some benefits, but increasingly fewer. And if we take the final step to the right, we're to the kings of capitalism, the biggest fans of free trade in the world, the folks who push free trade and capitalism to every corner of the globe they can, and that's the United States of America. And this may seem semi-confusing to you as well, because you're like, well, wait a minute. The U.S. does have Social Security and welfare and all these benefits and unemployment, and we provide lots of stuff. Yes, kind of. The U.S., like many countries, does provide some benefits to its citizens, but it's nowhere near even the top 10 of countries that provide lots of stuff to its citizens. You can think of things that the U.S. does for its citizens, but there's no free health care for everybody. I mean, they're kind of working on that. There is no maternity leave for 2 years like the Swedes have. There's a whole host of things that the Saudi Arabians give their citizens, like free college. The United States doesn't do that. And the U.S. really does not like to be in the business of business. The U.S. government stays away from the private sector as much as possible. And that seems perhaps a little confusing again in today's era, where the 2008 economic meltdown, where the U.S. government did go in and partly nationalize the banks and some other things. But they are very quick. The U.S. is the fastest to say, yes, in times of emergency or crazy things, we will nationalize. But then we're the first country to back out and say, no, give it back to private hands. We like capitalism, and even the benefits we give are pretty minimal in the bigger picture of things, particularly given the United States is the richest country on planet Earth. The amount of benefits, social benefits, outright given to its citizens is actually pretty minimal when compared to many of the countries to the left side just on this spectrum. Does that help? Does that make sense? That is just a sampling of the spectrum employed in the real world. But no matter how the state organizes itself economically, real people all over the real planet have to work in real jobs and get real paid. So now let's turn to employment by sector to see what people are up to in different states and how that affects the wealth, the status, and the development of the state itself.